Let's take a quick look at radiator hoses and hose clamps. Now, radiator hoses used to be made from rubber and they wore out and they needed replacing quite often. Nowadays, hoses are made from EPDM, which is synthetic rubber, and it's much more durable, and generally these hoses are good for the life of the car. Now, coolant hoses are flexible because of engine vibration. It's another little example of isolating the engine from the body. The hoses don't carry vibration from the engine over into the heater matrix or out to the radiator. Now, sometimes you'll find a metal pipe used for coolant where it has to handle a high temperature. We've got one here where the coolant runs back from the heater underneath the exhaust manifold here and back into the water pump inlet. Hoses have layers of reinforcement inside the walls. It's a liner of polyester or glass fibre that's in here. You can kind of see the texture on the hose itself. This stops the hose from collapsing or bulging under pressure. Now, if stock hoses aren't working for you because they're worn out, they're tatty, whatever, then there are upgrades available. Silicone-based hoses are readily available in a range of trendy, fashionable colours, and there are super fancy stainless steel flexible hoses for show cars. If I wasn't keeping this engine totally stock, I would have replaced all these hoses with a silicone kit because I think they look good and they're pretty cost effective, and they also perform well. Now, there are three types of clamp that are used on hoses. We've got these are spring clamps. They're fairly standard. Manufacturers like them because they're reliable and they're cheap, but really they're kind of only one use, single use hoses. You know, they're not designed for taking on and off regularly. And if one fails, then you need a replacement that's exactly the same size. So people tend to replace these when they're worn out with adjustable hose clamps. And there's two types of these. There's a worm gear or a Jubilee type clamp, which has a wide adjustment range, but you can strip them and you can over tighten them. Now, there's also these T-bolt clamps that are out there, or they're sometimes called racing clamps. These have a good solid clamping pressure all the way round, and they don't cut into hoses. Also, I should mention one of my favourite homemade tools. We've got a little bent screwdriver here, and it's super useful when you come across an engine and it has seized on hoses that have got some corrosion. You often find like a crusty bonding between the hose and an inlet or an outlet. To break that, I use this bent screwdriver. I just hook it underneath the hose. I'm not pulling on the hose, I just work it away around the outside of the hose here just to break that seal, and then you can tend to twist the hose off. A normal screwdriver, it'd be fine for this situation because you can actually get it in from behind. But often you'll find, for example, underneath here, that you can't get a screwdriver straight in. So an old screwdriver, heated up, bent around, super useful. Just be careful when you're doing it that you don't pull it all the way, or just throw it on the floor. Just be careful you don't pull it all the way and hook yourself in the arm. So as you're doing it, you're not really pulling with this, you're just using it as a lever to break that bond in the hoses. There's my top tip of the day.